When you say
Yes,
everything that happened prior, and when you said when he bites his lip, I know nothing good is gonna happen, has he hit you
correct.
before?
Plenty of times.
This is the plaintiff, Ronnie. He says the defendant is his ex-wife, and she owes him $208.08, and he's suing her because he can't let her get away without paying him what she rightfully owes. He took care of everything in their marriage, but fair is square, and he's suing. This is the defendant, Tanisha. She says the guy knocked her teeth out. He was violent and abusive. He went to prison, and how dare he take her to court over this little utility bill? He has some nerve. If anyone's owed money today, it's not him. She's accused of not paying up. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $6,000 for dental work and pain and suffering.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Ronnie, what brings you here? What happened?
Well, first, I'd like to say hi, Judge. I'm a big fan of yours. So back in January 2002, me and my about-to-be ex-wife got into a altercation, and from the altercation, I ended up going-
2002?
2019.
2002?
January the 2nd.
Oh, 2019.
2019.
Okay.
I ended up going to prison, and I'm suing for a gas bill that he ran up in my name.
How long did you go to prison for, Mr.
Ronnie, 11 months.
11 months. And what were the charges that you went to prison for?
A domestic violence.
And who was the victim on that case? Was that her?
My soon-to-be ex-wife.
Okay, so you ended up serving 11 months, and then how many months was a gas bill still in your name inappropriately?
9 months.
All right, so Ms. Tanisha, he says that you're supposed to pay that, but I've read your answer to the complaint, and as I understand it, there's just a little bit more to this story, so let me hear from you.
Okay, yes, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I don't understand why he feels that I owe him anything, but he wasn't. I didn't take him off the gas bill until maybe like 2-3 months later, and actually he was in the county jail from January 2019.
What happened? Why was he in jail? I want to hear what happened, because you have a counterclaim against him for $6,000 for punching your 4 front teeth out. Let's get to
Correct.
that. Yeah.
Okay. On prior to January 2nd, we had been arguing because he was being unfaithful in the marriage. He was doing drugs throughout the marriage. He was taking money throughout the marriage from my family members, from myself, from my children to go out and use drugs. New Year's night, he didn't come home. We had went to church on New Year's Eve night. He didn't come home that night because he went out to use drugs. The next morning, he woke up. My son was doing dishes. And he got upset because my son was taking too long, according to him, to get the dishes done. And he got upset because I didn't discipline him the way he thought that I should have disciplined my son for not doing the dishes in a timely manner. So all while I'm getting ready for work, the argument now is not even about him being out all night, not about the drug use, not about the girls in his car, the other women in his car. It was about none of that. Now it's about my son doing the dishes. So we're fighting. He needed to go. I needed gas in my car to go to work. So to make a long story short, we were driving to the ATM so he could get money for me to put into my gas tank. We pull up to the ATM. I said something that he didn't like. He asked me a question if I want to continue in the marriage. And I gave him an answer that I didn't like, that he didn't like. And the answer was no.
Which was what?
That I didn't want to continue in the marriage. It was just so much. It was just like so overwhelming. I was just done. Things weren't getting any better. There was no signs that anything was getting better. So we're pulling up to the ATM, and he asked me this question. Now, all of a sudden, and it happened real fast. He heard my answer. I looked over at him because he was driving, and I see him bite his lip. And I know when he bite his lip that nothing good is coming behind it. And next thing I know, his fist came over into my mouth. Now, initially, I was in shock. I didn't feel no pain or nothing. I immediately put my hand over my mouth, and I turned over and looked at him, and he was just like, and broke down crying in tears. I'm so sorry. I took my hand away from my mouth, and my hand is covered in blood. There's a gas station that's like right across the street from the ATM. We immediately drive over to the gas station that was across the street. We go into the bathroom. He's all, I'm sorry, nervous about what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go to jail. Just going on and on and on. So I told him, I said, take me to my daughter. Take me to my daughter. We drive back home,
daughter?
which was my daughter at the time. She was 17.
She's not his daughter, right?
Correct. No. I have 3 children, and none of them are his. So he did bring me home to get my daughter, and he didn't want to take me to the actual emergency room. So we drove to the dentist because he knew if we went to the actual emergency room that the police would be called. So he took me to
What did you tell your daughter had happened?
She knew. I told her exactly the whole story, everything that. Well, she knew prior.
Has he hit you before that time? When you say
Yes,
everything that happened prior, and when you said when he bites his lip, I know nothing good is going to happen. Has he hit you before?
Plenty of times. Plenty. I should have been left a long time ago. I know.
How many times did you call the police?
That was my first time.
Oh, wow.
All right. So so you go to the dentist, and when you go to the dentist, what happens? Does your mother meet you there?
No, his mother did.
His mother. And then what happens?
Yes. She came up there. She was just so apologetic. The dentist office actually stayed open after hours to continue to treat me. I ended up getting stitches. They ended up, and I remember being in such excruciating pain. Excruciating pain for so long.
I cannot imagine how much it would hurt to have your 4 front teeth punched out. So you called the police, and what happened? Did he get arrested?
He went on the run for about 2 to 3 days, and then he turned himself in. Did
he have any other arrests for domestic violence before this one?
Yes. Not with me, with other victims. His other, like a couple of them with this kid's mother or just prior girlfriends. He has a lot of baby mamas.
How many prior domestic violence cases did he have?
The only ones that I know for sure, I know he did like 3 years. He almost killed one young lady. He threw her through a table, wow, a coffee table, and she was hospitalized for a while. I know when he went to prison.
When did you learn about this?
Actually, to be
before or
honest,
after you married him?
It was before I married him. He told me a story, Your Honor. He convinced me to be all about God, that he was all about God. If I didn't see God in him, that this marriage would never work, that he's not the same person when he doesn't have God in him. And he just...
Except for that before punching 4 of your teeth out, he had beaten you less violently before, right? So you knew that whatever hold God had on him was tenuous, right? Because there were prior events with you.
Yes.
I would like to hear your response to the things that she just said.
Oh, definitely. So we let part of it was true, the arguing part and going to the bank, and I got the money out the bank. She was driving. She got mad at me, and from the bank, she zooms directly across the street into the gas station, and she hit a pole. Okay, now if you look on the, I've sent you some copy works with copies where she went to the judge. She also bailed me out of jail. I do have 2 prior convictions of DV, but years ago. I have 8 years
Did
clean
you
in off of
serve
crack
3
cocaine.
years for one of them?
No, absolutely not, ma'am.
How
I
much
went
time did
downtown.
you serve for prior domestic violences?
Uh, I slapped a female and I pushed one 6 months twice.
The
Years ago,
one you
ma'am.
pushed, did you push her into a
No,
coffee
ma'am.
table?
That's a felonious assault. No, ma'am. Absolutely not. That's a felonious assault. Actually, this case here it was started off as felonious assault too, which carries 8 years. But once she went to the judge and started telling the truth because this young lady, she's a narcissist, she's a liar. I took her from being homeless, her and her kids. We moved out to a very good neighborhood. The kids, we police has never called on us. We had 4 vehicles. I paid for. I
Had
worked. I
you
had a landscaping
previously
business.
hit her?
Never ever, no arguments from the neighbors, calling the police. No one.
I'm not
There's
asking you if there's evidence you
I've
hit her.
never,
I'm
no,
asking you
ma'am.
if you hit her before this
I've
day.
never ever, I've never ever put my hands on
You've
her.
never
I
hit
took care
her.
of her 3 kids. No,
She's a
ma'am. I took care of
complete
her 3
liar.
kids.
So
Complete
she's a
liar.
complete
Actually,
liar.
if you look on, complete liar. Actually, if you look on page 16, this is a letter from her actually to the judge, the prosecutor, and my attorney.
Yeah.
And then
And
read
so
page
here's a letter.
4.
And here's what the
Uh huh.
letter says. I'm writing to you to
Uh huh.
ask you, do not send my husband to prison. The God in me will not let me falsely accuse him of something he just simply did not do. Our marriage has problems, such as lying and cheating. But to be perfectly honest, the infidelity started with me. I was the narcissistic person in the marriage who failed to communicate, who lied, who cheated, and after years of Ranye begging me to stop and to talk to them, he was then pushed out the door to also cheat. Your Honor, he's a good husband and a good father, and in our soon-to-be 5 years of marriage has never been abusive to myself or our children. I will be the first to honestly admit that all he ever tried to do was take us to church and get our lives right. Your Honor, on the day in question, I was on a lot of heavy medications. I was in no shape to be making a report of any kind, and I told the officer I was not doing well and I could barely talk. I was confused and hurt for him cheating on me and getting caught, and I blamed my accident on him. Please forgive me for the false information. So let's you and I talk, Miss Tanisha. What was that?
Okay, yes, I was coerced to write that letter. He had me write that letter because at the time he had, when we first got married, had got custody of his son, and at the time of the accident on January 2nd, Children's Services showed up at my door on January 3rd, the very next day, and removed his son from my home. Uh, it's a
Why?
lot.
Because the police had been called, and did you just call this an
correct.
accident? Did you just call this why did you call it an accident if you say he whooped you? He punched you right in the teeth. How is it an accident?
Just the incident, incident in
Incident.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah, incident.
All right,
Yeah,
so then,
But Your Honor,
all right,
it's
so
just
why
Your
are you
Honor,
writing this so that he could have his kids? Wait a second. Why are you writing this so that he can have his kids back?
I wrote the letter. I wrote the letter to the judge at juvenile court. So because I at the time was undecisive if I wanted to continue on with the marriage or not. I know now after having
why don't I
time
just
to
write
think,
the
but
script for you? Yeah, here's how it works. I love him. I love him, and he's so apologetic, and he feels so bad about what happened, and he wants to get back together, right?
yeah, at the time I felt like that I was the person who should
Were you
keep
trying
him,
to get
and I
the
wanted to
case
fight
dropped
him.
against him that he was
I was.
facing 8 years on? So you were
I
telling the
was trying to
prosecutor
get.
and the judge that it didn't happen.
I was,
And what did the
yes, in
prosecutor
order
and the
to get the
judge
she's a
do?
son.
liar.
They didn't
And
believe
then
him.
what
They
happened?
didn't believe me. I'm
And
sorry, they didn't believe me. They
right.
didn't
So
believe the
what they do?
letter, and
Right.
they
So
kept
they
custody
proceeded
of the
without it.
son. Yes,
Let me ask you a question. Has he ever hit any of the
I,
kids?
yes,
Which ones? Yours
and
or his?
all of them. His and mine.
And those weren't the final straws for you. So what's happening with your teeth all that time? Are you going to the dentist? Are you going through treatment? What was happening?
From January 2nd, I went without no teeth in my mouth until late May. So I went 4 months with just nothing. It took 4 months for my partials, for my bones and gums to heal. And I got partials in right now. And basically, I just been living with the partials. It's an everyday, constant reminder of what I went through, taking care of them. I have opportunity to get permanent fixtures. I'm not super old, I'm not super young either, but I just feel like I'm too young for this. Like, I shouldn't have to live my life like this. He took something away from me, and he should, by right, return it to me. And I should be able, he should have to pay.
He wants me to believe that it never happened, that you're just saying, look, judge, look at the letter she sent the judge. Look. So it never happened. What should I believe? A recantation by a victim, which is classic. This happens in, gosh, I don't even know what, I couldn't even guess what percentage of domestic violence cases this happened. But you know what to me is the most important thing? Is not what is said in an effort to affect the prosecutor's decision or the custodial decision or but I love him and I don't want him to go to 8 years prison decision. To me, the place where no one lies, you know where that is? I'll tell you where that is. When you go straight to the doctor and you speak to the doctor or the dentist, because it is so incredibly trustworthy. And what do these dental records say? Doctor's notes from limited exam. Patient had trauma to face domestic violence, was punched in the face. Intrude. Patient was in extreme pain and discomfort, very apprehensive and crying. Wanted something done to her teeth so she wouldn't lose them. Patient brought mother and daughter who were also crying. Mr. Ranier, is there anything you want to say?
Yes, ma'am, if I may. I met Tanisha. I was in church.
Oh no.
You asked me.
We're not going back to
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
met her. I'm asking you if there's anything you want to say in response to what I just read.
Yes.
Why would a woman
yes,
with her daughter and your mother, not her mother, your mother there with her?
Well, she was
Everyone's
angry
crying
at
about
me.
what happened. Was your mama angry at you too?
She was.
Why wasn't your mama saying that didn't happen?
Well, because my mom she actually told my mom that I did it. This is the lie she told.
You know what, Mr. Rania? You know what? Stop talking.
Test.
I changed my mind.
Ma'am.
I really don't want to hear it. No, I really don't want to hear it.
Ma'am,
I know you punched her in the mouth.
Ma'am.
I know you punched her in the mouth.
No, ma'am.
I know you punched her in the mouth. I know you punched her in the mouth. You know you punched her in the mouth. Everyone knows you punched her in the mouth. That is what happened. You can eat the gas bill, and I am ruling in Tanika's favor in the amount of $6,000 so you can start getting your dental work.
Let's see what Ronnie, the plaintiff, has to say about this case right now. Ronnie, I know you're upset. What are you thinking?
She's a liar. She's a narcissist. And then she said I was on drugs. I had, when I got from ankle monitor, when they tested me was I on drugs, I have it on paper, said I wasn't on drugs. Everything was clean. And the judge just don't like a person that's on with a domestic violence case. It actually was a felony. I was going to have a domestic violence case thrown out, but I was messing around with her still. She was still sneaking over to where I was at, took my ankle monitor too. That's all I have to say. It's fine.
All right, you've said your bit, but you still have to pay down $6,000.
Well, good luck with that.
Tanisha, let me ask you, I know you're very upset. You probably didn't want to have a lot of this come out in court, but what are you thinking right now?
I'm really happy with the judge's decision. Right now, I'm more angry and ashamed that I didn't keep myself and my kids safe like a mom should have. And it's a mistake that I've learned from and that I will never make again. As far as like anything that he was saying, I knew to, not to say anything. I knew that the judge would catch him in his lies, and I didn't have to, fight for it. It was all right there. He couldn't even keep his stories together. It didn't make any sense. The judge, like I told my kids, I said, the judge is a very smart lady. We don't have to say much, just stick to the facts. And, and look at God. Look at God. That's all.
Well, it sounds like
Thank you.
you've learned a valuable lesson from
I
the
did.
judge.
Absolutely. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Congratulations, then. Good for you. Well, this is quite a case. Obviously, the judges have a lot to say about this. Let's see what it is.
You went right to one piece of evidence that to you was really more probative than the rest, and that was the statements made to the dentist.
Yeah,
for
because you're not going to
diagnosis
lie
and
to the dentist about how it happened because you're worried that it's going to affect
Right.
your treatment.
Your diagnosis.
You're trying to
and
save your
treatment.
teeth. You're
Right.
not going to, and plus it was so fresh. It had just happened and the daughter's crying, she's crying, his mother's crying, everybody's crying.
Right.
How does she get to lie to the mother without him knowing that and he drove them there? Everybody knows what happened at that moment. He knows what happened.
And certainly, as a judge, it's not unusual to see domestic violence cases proceed with a recanting witness. It happens more and more. We've got prosecutors who are aggressive who say, look, I've got a 911 call with the victims screaming and explaining what's going on as it's happening. It's going to be admissible in court.
You got blood everywhere. You got 4 teeth on the floor.
The police arrive on the scene. They see certain things, even if nobody says a word when they walk in the door. They can see the crime scene. They see what happened. And then you've got statements made in support of medical diagnosis or treatment under the hearsay rule.
Yeah, it's an exception because it's so trustworthy.
Right.
The statements that you make to that dentist or that doctor are very trustworthy. Why? Because you're not going to lie to him because they're for medical diagnosis.
Exactly.
They're before you have a chance to say, oh, but I don't want him to go to jail for 8 years. Oh, but he's going to be in trouble. Oh, but he's so sorry. It's before all that garbage starts to happen.
Okay, Kim wants to know this. Hey, Harvey. I had a faucet leak, notified the landlord, and it took him 5 days to fix it. My water bill went up $100. Can I deduct it from my rent? I live in Oklahoma. Haven't checked Oklahoma law on this, but typically, if you call the landlord and the landlord fixes it in a reasonable period of time, then the landlord is absolved of any responsibility. However, if there is a leak and the leak is on the landlord, I think you can absolutely make a case that whatever the excess bill is for the time that there was a leak, that should be borne by the landlord. And that will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case inside the courtroom.
This is the plaintiff, Danielle Martino. She says she hired the defendant to install a backup camera in her Jeep. And the guy screwed up her electrical system and won't give her her money back. She has no other choice but to take him to court. So that's what she did and is suing him for the $1,044.89 she paid him. This is the defendant, Blaine Hartleb. He says the plaintiff's wiring in the old Jeep was already messed up, and he told the plaintiff, and she authorized the camera installation knowing it. He's been in business a long time and knows what he's doing, and won't be bamboozled by the likes of the plaintiff. He's accused of crossing his wires.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says she hired the defendant to install a backup camera on her Jeep. Says the guy screwed it up so badly that all her wiring is messed up. But the defendant says the plaintiff's very old Jeep was a wiring mess when he got it, and he told the plaintiff about it, and now she's turning around and trying to blame him. It's the case of crossed wires.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Martineau, tell me your tale of woe. What happened here?
I took my Jeep to the defendant's shop to have a backup camera installed, and
okay,
it was
how
installed.
old is the Jeep?
So it's 2007, so it was 11 years at the time.
Okay.
11 years old at the time.
And it was installed. When did you have it installed? By Outrageous Audio? Is that it?
Correct.
How long ago did you folks install the camera onto her Jeep?
It was in 2018. So February 18th,
Okay.
2018.
All right. Did you personally install it or no?
No, my installers did.
Got it. All right. So, Ms. Martineau, what happens? You take your car in 2018 to Outrageous Audio to get them to install a backup camera that you wanted on your Jeep. And what happens?
So the first thing that happened was it was backwards. So it was completely useless for the time that I had it because I couldn't use it to parallel park.
But I'm not understanding. When you go to pick it up, wasn't it already backwards? And didn't you tell them, hey, it's backwards? Like, what happened when you picked it up?
It worked. The image was backwards. So if I went to parallel
flipped.
Right.
It'd be the wrong, oh, goodness gracious. That's not good. Yeah.
Right. And so, but my thought was it was a setting, and I'm usually pretty good with those sort of things. So I just kept messing with the stereo, and I hadn't had a backup camera, so it wasn't like I had one and suddenly didn't, right? Like after like 2 weeks, I got out the manual, and then I saw it had a little switch. So I called the shop and was told that I'd have to bring it back to have them flip the switch because it was behind the dash. So I told them I would bring it back out it was going to be March 10th. It was a Saturday that I was going to bring it back out. Well, on March 6th, I drove it to work for the first time. I have 2 cars, and it was going to be icy. So instead of taking my economical car, I took my Jeep, the safe car. And when I went to set the knob to defrost, like the knob wouldn't turn. It was stuck. Like there was wires behind it that were messy. So I jiggled it really gently, and I got it to slide into defrost, and I drove it all the way out to work, which is a long journey. And when I got almost all the way to work, the camera, my stereo deck went black, and then it was flashing a little bit, and I thought, well, that's really weird. So I turned it off, and then I turned it back on, and I saw the image that the camera sees, but it said no connection to camera, so there's an error on it. So I was like 2 blocks from work. I got to work, I turned it off, I set the alarm, went to work, thought everything was fine, thought the camera shorted out, came out at the end of the day, and the car wouldn't start. I unset the alarm, so it had power, but it was like dead, like it just, nothing. You turn the key, nothing would happen. So
What is I unset? Wait. What was the last thing you said? I unset the alarm. What does that mean?
So there's a clicker, the clicker to unset the alarm. Like I left the car, I set the alarm, clicked the lock, unlock.
So when you came back after your day was over, after work, then you tried to turn off the alarm, and what happened?
I turned off the alarm. It unset. It was fine. I got in the car. I put the key in the ignition, and there was like no sounds, nothing. And I turned the key, and there was just nothing. So I had to leave it. We tried to jump it. Somebody helped me try to jump it. I left the car. The next day, I had it towed to the first of 3 shops, and all they could find was that the aftermarket alarm that was on the car had to be reset. So they just reset the alarm because something in the shorting out of the camera also did something to the alarm that was in the car.
When they reset the alarm, first of all, the alarm was there before the camera was, right? The alarm was installed by someone else prior to the camera. All right.
Correct.
So they reset the alarm, and then what happens?
The next day, I was driving the car, and I was almost clear out by their shop, and I was on the freeway, and all of a sudden the stereo deck flashed again, and I thought, oh no, and all the lights on the dash came on, like there was this flashing going on. I thought, oh gosh, I just have to get the car home because I was afraid once I turned it off again, I wouldn't be able to restart it. So when I got about 2 miles from home, every buzzer, every horn, everything started just I call it the complete electronic meltdown. It just honking, beeping, everything. So I get it home, I turn it off, I backed it into my driveway, turn it off, and I get out and I can hear all this clicking under the dash. So I I popped the hood and I tried to pull the fuse, see what fuse it was. And one of my backup reverse lights was flashing with the clicking. And so I pulled some fuses. I finally found out which one it was, but then I was afraid to leave it because at that point the alarm was still working, but that was it. And I couldn't turn the car on. So I pulled all the fuses out, put them all back, left it clicking overnight so the alarm could secure it, not in the greatest neighborhood. And the next day I had to have it towed I called Jeep. Jeep couldn't get it in for a week and a half. So I called a local mechanic, and they didn't want to mess with it because the wiring was a mess. And they had
what wiring?
Close to my house. So all the wiring.
Who's wiring?
everybody's wiring.
I think you're taking a little bit of license here, so let's talk plainly. What did that second shop, Madison, tell you was the problem? They didn't say it was all the wiring. They said your alarm wiring, right?
No, the Jeep receipt was very specific about the alarm wiring. And what Jeep did was they took out the alarm. And once they
Is
took
Jeep
out the wiring,
first place or the second place or the third place you took it to?
third place, they kind of felt that the camera may have been tied into the alarm wiring, which was bad. But even if it wasn't tied into the alarm wiring,
that's a guess. That's a guess. In other
No,
words,
but even if it was
you should be able to see whether it was tied in or not. So did they say it was tied in or did they not say it was tied in?
no one would say.
Or are you saying, look, these guys are professionals. They opened up my, they saw my wiring. They should have said, hey, lady, this is horrible wiring your alarm people did. Is that what your premise is? That they had an obligation to tell you that?
Yes. And the way they left it behind the dash, I believe, is what, when I couldn't turn the knob to defrost, because the defrost is all the way to the right, it was because of the mess of wiring that they left behind there. So it was, I believe
all right,
that
let
was
me hear
the,
from you,
the
Mr.
final
Hartlib.
claim.
I want to hear from you. I want to hear your responses to this stuff. When did you first get involved?
Well, on February 18th, she came in to have the camera put in. And while we were installing her camera, the install people went to the salesman and told Danielle that there's a bunch of wires behind the deck and it's missing some critical parts in regards to the installation of the stereo.
Stop. Who did that? Who told the customer that?
The salesman.
Where is the salesman? Is the salesman here to testify?
He's not.
Well, then how do you know what you're saying? Where did you get that from?
I talked to our sales team as well as the install team, and
that's what they say happened.
I hear you. I have my manager here also who talked to Jeep in regards to this.
All right. So now, when you first hear about Ms. Martineau's problems, is how? She writes a letter to you?
What I understand is that we got a phone call when the vehicle was at Jeep. And that's where my manager stepped in and called the technician right away.
Okay, so when your manager got involved, I'd like to talk to your manager. Is there a safe way for me to do that? Are you guys in the same room? You guys are always in the same room?
Yeah, no, we can swap right now.
Okay, let's do that. I'd like to talk to the manager.
All right, here's Doug. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay, Doug. Hi, Doug. Can you raise your right hand, please?
I sure can.
Thank you, Your
Doug,
Honor.
will you swear Doug in?
Absolutely.
Thank
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor?
Okay, how did you get involved, and tell me who told you what?
So I got involved because we'd received a phone call that said that the Jeep was at Jeep, and that I think actually, if I remember right, we got a phone call from Danielle, but then we called Jeep, and I called the technician at Jeep because I'd heard that he said the camera was installed poorly, but when I talked to him, he said no, that wasn't the case, that it was done different than he would have done it. We went down the passenger side, not the driver, and now that he knows that, then there's no way that we would have known the alarm was an issue. We couldn't have told her that it should have been fixed because we never saw it, because everything we did was on the passenger side of the vehicle and behind the radio.
Wait, so I'm confused. When your boss said a minute ago that you guys told her that the wiring should be fixed, that's not accurate?
There was two separate spots that the wiring was poor. The radio wiring was
so
poor,
there's
and
wiring
the
for the alarm, and there's wiring for the stereo. Okay.
Yes.
Do you know whether there was anything about the stereo wiring that was a problem?
Well, I mean, except for the actual wiring itself behind the radio, yes, there was some issues, and it was installed poorly. It was missing some parts that you need to have to make them function correctly back there.
So you talked to Jeep, and what did Jeep tell you was the problem? The alarm wiring or the stereo wiring, or both?
The alarm wiring.
Or neither? The alarm
wiring.
And you don't have anything to do with the alarm wiring because you're saying we rigged it all up through the passenger side and not through the driver's side where the alarm wiring was. Okay. Okay. Yeah, switch with your boss.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna, Ms. Martineau, what I want to know from you is I have a lot of documentary evidence in this case. I have Let's see what Jeep says. Customer states after backup camera installed, all issues started. Backup camera burned out. Inspected and found wiring for aftermarket alarm spliced into wireless control module ignition switch output is bare. Further inspection of aftermarket alarm wiring showed a very poor method of installation. Factory wiring insulation was stripped back and alarm wiring wrapped around exposed wire. Wire splices were then just taped over. Soldering wire splices should have been done, and any exposed wiring should have been repaired or replaced. Recommend removing aftermarket alarm and repairing factory wiring to correct concern. Okay, tell me where I should see anything that says that the camera caused all your problems, that the camera install caused your problems.
I believe the camera shorting out is what took out the alarm because it was the.
I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you can believe it till your cows come home. You need to prove it. I can't have you look me in the eye and say, I believe the camera was at fault, when I'm reading everything saying, no, it wasn't. The alarm system was. You have 3 different agencies that could have given you that information if it in fact happened. If the camera wiring was at fault, then 3 different places, Meineke, Madison, or Jeep, could tell me that. And you know what notably none of them do? None of them say that. They all say it was the alarm system. So, you know, you have this theory that they hooked up the camera, but you don't have any proof of it. And with no proof, I have no choice but to rule in favor of the defendant in this case. That's my verdict.
Let's talk to Ms. Martino, see how she feels about it. What are you thinking right now, Ms. Martino?
I mean, it's the judge. She's the boss. It's fine.
Well, you're right. She is the boss. Obviously, you're upset. You're disappointed. What are you going to do now?
I mean, nothing. I had a reputable company put in a camera. All's good.
So all is well now. Okay. Mr. Hartlip, you know, you won the lawsuit. You really didn't have to say a whole lot. How are you feeling?
No. Feeling pretty good, but we knew. And the sad thing is she could have come in and we could have saved her a fortune by just taking a look at it. You know, lifetime warranty. We could have fixed all of that mess probably for $85.
What a shame. What a shame. Well, congratulations. Good luck. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's the end of this case. Let's see what the judges have to say about it. Here they are.
A failure of proof in this case, I guess, on behalf of the plaintiff, because you needed expert testimony to really allow her to climb the mountain that she had to climb and convince you.
Yeah, I don't think that expert testimony was out there, though.
Exactly.
I think, you know, because we had
plenty. It wasn't
plenty
forthcoming
No,
behind any particular
No.
rock.
I mean, she was upset about a lot of things. She was upset about the customer service. You know, she felt like they, you know, when he just poured a little salt in the wound, when he was, I could have been for $85 bucks. I could have said, you know, I think that she was frustrated with them, but she never really, I don't know why she would, I guess she can't find whoever rigged the alarm.
Sometimes when people put them in, they just, you know, behind that dashboard, it's just spaghetti.
Yeah,
There's
you're
just
never going to see, you're the customer and you're never going to see it.
Okay, Sharon wants to know this. Hey, Harvey. When my daughter was younger, one of her friends stole her purse. The police called it a loss rather than a theft because he was invited into the house. Why is this a loss and not a theft? Beats the hell out of me, because if he stole it from you, it's not a loss, it's a theft. Now, maybe the police know more than you're telling me, and maybe the argument here is she gave it to him. I don't know. But if he stole it, doesn't matter where you steal it, it's a theft. We'll see you next time.